like to call the meeting to order since it's 5 o'clock. If anyone wants to discuss anything that's not already on the items of agenda, please fill out a form. It's over by the desk, by the door, when we get to that. First agenda will be Scott Walden, the chief pilot for the Leonardo. Is he here? Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, great. I appreciate you having me here. My boss would be very upset that you call me the chief pilot of Leonardo. I'm the chief of the Navy training down here, but I do have a chief pilot above me. Maybe one day, huh? But yeah, thanks for having me here. I'll give you just a quick update on how things are going out at Peter Prince. As most of you guys know, that we were awarded the Navy contract to build and replace the current TH-57s with the TH-73, which is a single-engine light helicopter that's built up in Philadelphia. Part of that contract, there's two parts that I'm dealing with on that contract, and one of them is the service center, which is that we're going to provide service for the Navy and helping them maintain their aircraft while they're operating them in the next couple of decades. So the footprint of that service center is at Peter Prince. We got the hangar, we moved in, we have 7 employees, and that's a holding facility until we move up to aviation, Whiting Aviation Park in the next, hopefully next year or so. With the service center, you know, it's operated under Part 145 of the FARs, and it's there designed to do maintenance. But before we get to that portion of it, we're still finishing up the other portion of my part, which is the training part. We've been contracted to train 25 of the Navy pilots and Navy instructor pilots on the TH-73. And that's moved up to now we're up to about 31 pilots I think we've trained. This started in June of 2020 up in Philadelphia, and COVID reasons we moved down to Crestview. We've been operating out of Crestview until July. In July we moved over when we had our hangar here at Peter Prince. We've done the initial training for those pilots, and now we're into a maturity training where we're letting them develop their skills, get an experience base, develop their curriculum, things like that. So that's where we are out at Peter Prince. We have 2 aircraft, November 663 Sierra Sierra and November 669 Sierra Sierra. 669 Sierra Sierra right now is the one you're going to see flying the most. It's with 2 Navy pilots on board. I'm not even on board anymore. They're on their own. They're developing their curriculum. For the most part, they take off out of Peter Prince, head into Navy training facilities, OLFs, or they do some instrument work and end up in an OLF. Very, very rarely do they operate out of the civilian airfields, except to come back to Peter Prince, get fuel, and go back out. Right now, we're operating those guys 3 times a day, Monday through Thursday, for 2-hour flights each, so 6 hours a day. So you see them in and out. They'll come back to, generally they just land on the east taxiway and then air taxi over to our ramp where they shut down, get fuel, take off, they'll air taxi back to the east taxiway and generally get on out of the way. On occasion, they will do some pattern work at Peter Prince. So 663 Sierra Sierra is the other aircraft we have, and that's what I fly. I'm the instructor pilot down here right now. On occasion, some other folks will come in, but mostly it's myself. I'll be with a Navy, a Marine, or Coast Guard pilot. But because it's a civilian aircraft with a civilian pilot in command, we're staying at civilian airports. And so we will use Peter Prince. We go out to Crestview, Andalusia, Jack Edwards, some various other airports, but it's exclusively at civilian airports. What we're doing is training, mostly emergency procedure training, the more difficult maneuvers, letting them develop their techniques, get good experience base, get comfortable with the aircraft. But because of that, it is using the runway a decent amount. Sometimes we'll do things to the taxiway if we can, but some of our maneuvers we do need to go to the runway, particularly auto rotations. And we're doing touchdown auto rotations to the ground. We do have skid shoes that protect the runway, allow us to do these emergency procedures without damaging the runway. Per the FARs and the AIM, Helicopter operations are slightly different in that we try to avoid the flow of fixed-wing traffic while we're operating at a civilian airport, especially one as busy as Peter Prince. If Peter Prince is using traffic on the west side, sometimes to assist, we'll go into the east side and stay out of the flow of fixed wing. And my goal when I fly these patterns is to not affect the fixed wing traffic, especially if a student says solo, something like that, then I'll definitely stay out of the way. But my goal is not to affect the flow of fixed wing traffic. If a Cessna is taking off and doing a pattern to the west on runway 18, I'm going to do my best to not make him extend or delay at all, the best I can. Of course, sometimes things do happen, but I do my best. Again, we're trying to stay out and we're trying to work within the regulations, and I'm hopefully we're doing a decent job. And but if not, I want everybody to know. Please, I'll give anybody my card. Please let me know if there's a problem with myself or any of the Navy pilots of what we're doing operation out of there. And that's about it. All right. Any questions?
Thank you. I don't have a question. I just have a comment. The biggest complaint that I've heard from people out there is when the Navy planes come in and hang and hover right on the taxiway and blow dust into the hangar. And I haven't seen that happen lately. 6 months to a year ago, it happened all the time. If they saw someone in a hangar late in the evening, it seems like they would just target that hangar to hover right there. And that hadn't happened recently that I've seen. I hadn't heard anybody complaining about it, but you guys aren't an issue because you're going into your hangar, so
Correct.
Appreciate that.
We try to be cognizant of our rotor wash. One thing I will mention, we do right on the taxiway, the east taxiway next to our hangar is where the weather station is, and we've noticed that winds will be 180 at 5 knots. We'll hover up to it, and then the automated voice who comes over and said there's a severe crosswind, so we're going to try to avoid hovering next to the weather station. But I don't think that we're usually anywhere near anybody's hangar, so it should not be a factor.
Doc?
Can you speak a little bit, some comments about what he's presenting?
Yeah, would you like to come up to the mic?
I'm Carlos Diaz. I'm the owner and operator of the FBO there, AMS. And I want to tell you, so far the helicopters have not been much of an issue, but you're saying that you're going to be doing things over the runway and auto rotations. It's going to be very difficult for you to do that because we're busy now. We're going to get much busier. Liberty University programs have increased. We've entered into an Air Force contract. We'll be sending 3 and 4 waves of 4 aircraft at a time all day long. And they're mostly going to be doing touch and goes initially. I don't see where you're going to be able to fit a helicopter in there in our operations. I would love to work with you, but I would like somebody from your organization to come talk to us before everything starts and see how we can make an arrangement so that we can both get what we need. But if helicopters just blunder into our pattern on our runway when we're in the middle of operations, it's going to be a disaster. So just wanted to let you know that we're busy and we're going to be a lot busier, and we should talk about how to get it working. Okay?
Yeah. One thing I failed to mention is the timeline, and we're really nearing the end of this program. The 669 Sierra Sierra with the Navy pilots, which is minimal effect, should end by the end of 2021. The Navy will have enough of their own aircraft. The 663, which is more of a factor for you guys, should end about mid to late November. So we got about another month and a half of it. And if the pattern is too full, which sometimes it is, generally we don't do the training there. And usually I do auto rotations when I'm very light on fuel at the end of the day. So I might come in, do 3 patterns, something like that, to do 3 auto rotations, and I'll be done. But if it's too crowded, we will be the first to leave by far. And I'll give you my card after this, okay, and you can always let me know, okay?
So far, it's not been a problem. We've noticed that you have been cooperative, with
We're trying to be, yes.
It's been good.
Okay, thank you.
The big difference on this, Carlos, is is they're contracted to for initial training for the flight instructors. Now, what we've seen in the past is usually a student and instructor. These are strictly instructors flying your aircraft, right?
Correct. So they're all experienced pilots, and it's going to end. It's going to end by the end of the year. We'll just be a service center at that point, and it'll be just maintenance flight. So.
Right, but I really don't think it's going to stop because the Navy still uses Peter Prince for a training site.
Yeah, remember
So,
I was talking for Leonardo.
exactly. That's the point I'm trying to make.
For at night, mostly at night. They don't
Right.
during the day a whole lot.
Some, but, great. Since we don't have a quorum, do we need to discuss any member meetings or member problems or comments or, no? Okay. Ready?
Just a project update, I think, right?
Leona Lewis with Mott McDonald. I'm a project engineer and consultant for the airport. So I'll go over some of our project updates. Starting off with our construction projects, we've got T-Hangar Triple D and Taxiway A rehabilitation, and then our design projects are the Taxiway B rehab, tree removal from the approaches, and then the master plan update. So the Triple D T-Hangar is nearing completion. That's the new 10-unit T-Hangar over on the east apron. The pre-engineered metal building has been completely constructed. The utilities have been run, electrical's complete. Last thing to finish is just pouring the asphalt for the apron. So we're anticipating substantial completion by the end of this month. Taxiway A rehab, the FAA grant for that's been approved for construction. We had a kickoff meeting last month with the contractor, and so that's the milling and resurfacing for Taxiway A and then reconstruction of Taxiway A4. They'll get started with that and mobilize in the first week of November, starting with the reconstruction of A4, and then that'll take about 2 weeks, and then they'll start with the milling and resurfacing of Taxiway A. So for Taxiway A, that'll also be about 2 weeks construction time. It'll be occurring as night work, and so as each section of the taxiway is milled and resurfaced, it'll be open for traffic the next morning. So at no point in time during the day should the Taxiway A be closed for traffic. So substantial completion for this is going to be in February 2022. That's mainly because the lighting upgrades are a long lead item. So again, the construction is going to be a shorter time frame. So our design projects, the Taxiway B rehabilitation, this one's basically a mirror project to Taxiway A. We'll be doing full depth reconstruction most likely for Taxiway B because of the severity of some of the cracking that we're seeing in the pavement. That would take place in fiscal year 23 if it's approved. We just submitted earlier this month the FAA grant application for the design work for that. So this one will also have the LED lighting upgrades. And then we have the tree obstruction removal from the 1836 approaches. The FDOT funding for that is going to be available in fiscal year 22-23. So the earliest that removal work could begin would be July 1st of 2022 with FDOT approval. So we've identified all the trees that are exceeding the approaches and then any that are within 10 feet vertically of becoming an obstruction to be removed. And so we've put together a set of plans for each property owner that's got a tree on their land that would be impacted. And with the county, we'll be sending those exhibits along with a letter that explains the importance of removing the obstructions and offering assistance to do so. And then finally, the master plan update. That's been circulated with the FAA and FDOT for review. The only comments we really got back on that was from the FAA that they would like the Exhibit A, which is the airport property inventory map, to be included with the ALP. So we recently received the results from a title search for the airport property, and right now we're in the process of mapping out all of those legals so that we can put them on Exhibit A and give the FAA our final plan set. And so that's all I have for project updates. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Either FBO have any agenda or anything they want to discuss?
No, we discussed this already.
Okay. Hangar lease appraisal?
Good afternoon. Shannon Ogletree, Economic Development. As you're quite aware, we took over Peter Prince Airport back in October 2020. And under the direction of the board, we were asked to look into looking at the hangar lease rates. So one of the things that we did was hire go out for bid, go out for RFQ, and hire a firm out of Miami. It was between them and a firm out of the Carolinas, I believe, to look at the various appraisals, the lease rates for both the T hangars, the small hangars, the space and everything of what is available. And after their assessment, we received the report back in May and June. And I believe everyone in the audience and you, the dais, should have copies of the report. But the firm was Slack, Johnson and McNamara out of Miami, Florida. They're real estate appraisals and consultants, and they suggested modifying the rates, raising the rates based upon their appraisals. And we can go by one, but we added a column in there by the percent change plus the absolute change of what we see. And this firm, I think his name was Zach, that we worked with, went through it and gave us what to expect for each size hangar. As a reminder, the airport is an enterprise fund, so all funds that the airport generates goes back into the airport. It doesn't go into any other funds. It is to rehabilitate the runways, the aprons, to help us build more hangars, to help us build more corporate hangars like for Leonardo and for others. Mott McDonald, completed the master study and presented it to you guys a couple months ago, or maybe 6 months ago. So we want to further expand Peter Prince and take those funds and further make the airport what it should be, or what we kind of envision it. One of the things that we're working with Tina and Leona is to the fence on the east side that breaks off, goes across Aviation Drive up along the triple hangars, is to move the fence along that road and to give more security to the airport and to where the driveway is and to each of the hangars, is to provide a gate there. So everything that we're raising, we're going to put back into the airport as required, and to build more hangars, build more corporate structures, and to improve the airport.
In the report, Tina Stewart, if anyone, hangar tenant, wants a copy of this report, please email her, and she will get you a copy of the report. And a lot of questions that have been asked to the board members have been the hangars that they've used in this report. There's been some concerns about using aircraft facilities at South Florida, very high cost of living areas, not compatible to this area or income level. Length of runways was not mentioned in the report. That has a lot of concern about the hangar cost. Other things like doors on storage facilities are very small. You can't put any wings or anything else in those. So to go up on those prices, there's a lot of people concerned about things like that, so.
Yeah, and I understand I was asking Tina, I was asking facilities, we do have approximately 100-person waiting list. And I know we've been culling through the list because we've had some individuals that haven't provided insurance or haven't, paid for a while. So we're culling through the list to make this a viable thing. But that's something we could look at. It's nothing we were going to look at, for example, I think the triple hangers, they're suggesting a $150 increase per month. And wasn't going to look at, doing that all of a sudden, but over a phased approach. And, we don't approve the increases. We'll take it to the Board of County Commissioners, and it is up to their discretion, up to their approval to pass the increase rates, if any. So,
Okay, so there is time for hangar attendants to review this and.
Correct.
And give their opinions and.
Correct. It wasn't my goal, it was my goal to take to the board the first week of, or the first board meeting in December or maybe in January for the commissioners to review and discuss. But we as staff have no ability to just willy-nilly raise the rates. We were just asked to look into, is it undervalued, and, when's the last time, I can't remember when was the last time the rates have actually been changed.
It's been a few years. I don't remember exactly how many, but it has been a few years. And that's another thing that was brought up to me was people can understand cost of living raise, but to tack on several $100s a month, there's a lot of concern about that, so.
No, it's something we'll discuss with the board. The goal is to, once rates are adjusted to market demand, I mean, it's supply and demand, is once rates are adjusted to a stable price, that we will adjust it accordingly to CPI. So that will be in lease structures from once we get to that given price there. That from every year from there on, it will be adjusted to CPI.
Okay, just my review of this, I'm looking at Tri-County, Inverness, Wilderness, Ferguson, Tampa, Zephyr Hills, and a lot of these they have 7,000-foot runways, 6,000-foot runway, 5,000-foot runway, 5,400-foot runway. So is that a fair comparison? And that's what people are asking. It didn't seem fair.
No, that's a fair question, and that's something we can talk with a fair appraisal. I mean, that is a fair question.
And I'm sure that several people in here are going to discuss this when they get a chance to talk.
No,
So.
no, that is a fair question. So,
I'd like to also weigh in. I'd echo what Mike said about the storage units. I would support going up on the storage units because they're very reasonable, but with a regular house-sized door, you can't fit aviation type equipment in there. I mean, you can't get an aircraft engine in that storage facility, for example. So I don't know if one of the things that everybody hides behind is the FAA rules on what can go in a hangar. And I think we take it to an extreme, because I think when you read the FAA circular that talks about what you can put in an aircraft hangar, there is a lot of latitude as long as it does not displace an aircraft. So that would also be a consideration if we move forward on rate increases, to adjust our thinking on the FAA circular and not be at the extreme, which I think it does not meet the intent of the circular.
something we could look into, and once we start building more triple hangars outside the D, once that's completed, The goal is to not have any more hangars with just a regular door. I agree with you, Mike. It's quite useless sometimes, trying to get stuff in and out. I mean, just a major toolbox, it's impossible. So I agree.
Thanks, Shannon. I don't have any more questions. Anybody else? I guess we're going to open it up to the public forum. If anybody filled out a sheet.
Do we have to fill out a sheet if it's on the agenda?
They can fill it out afterwards.
Okay. Please, if you'd like to talk, state your name, whether you're a hangar tenant or your interest in it.
Tim Gano, BBB 6. I've talked previously about the midfield taxiway that was removed. If Carlos is going to be increasing operations and all kinds of other things, and more hangars, it's getting pretty crowded waiting for airplanes to taxi. When they miss that first one, if you're not a good STOL pilot, you got to go all the way down to the end of the airport and turn, and people are waiting, making turns, all kinds of stuff. It's a safety issue. I don't know if we have to request a waiver from the FAA to do this, but we got to have a midfield taxiway. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone else?
Shane Hartman, we're in Triple B9. Some of the points that you brought up, Mike, I appreciate that. Those are concerns that we have voiced to some of the members. Some of the other concerns, which once I get the report, we'll take a closer look at. But with the hangar comps that they looked at, you did bring up some of these other locations, Zephyr Hills, obviously not comparable to what we have. But among that, I believe Ferguson is also a private airport. So another question would be, do they accept FAA funds? Because obviously Ruckle does not, which is another local airport, and their hangar rent is dramatically higher than what we're seeing. So just concerns if that's actually a fair assessment based on what they did. Additionally, for the rent that we're seeing now, the airport care and maintenance is just not there. If you fly into any other county airport, pick one within 200 miles, they're much better taken care of. The grass is mowed. It's cleaned up around there. It looks nice, and there's always someone nice from the FBO that comes out and greets you. I have not seen that at Milton Airport. Additionally, for the hangar condition, this initial report that's listed out lists the condition as average for many of these regular T hangars. I would challenge anyone here in the county that has a nice car to go park their car in hangar India 3 for a month and let me know how those rust stains look on their car. I would call that well below average. So the fact that these are rated as average on there, I would definitely question that. That's within the report. Like I said, once we get a chance to look over the actual comps on what they did, I'm sure there'll be more comments, but that's all I have for this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Anyone else?
Hi, good afternoon. Phil Webb, hangar tenant, long time out there at the airport. Regarding the reevaluation of the hangar leases, I'd like to ask several questions and then make several requests. My first question is, what was the impetus that started the reevaluation process? My second question is, what basis was used for the reevaluations? Okay, so what are the parameters that they're looking at for these evaluations? And then my third question is, why a company in Miami? Why not a local company? Finally, for the record, I would like the percentage increase and the actual cost read in today for the record. And finally, I'd like the report to be sent to all tenants there at the airport. Thank you.
As I mentioned earlier, if you need a copy of the report, Tina Stewart can get you one. What's your email address, Tina? Can you?
It's tina@santarosa.fl.gov. I can give you a card.
Okay. Please see Tina if you want a copy, and she'll email you one, or get her address and you can request one.
I'm sorry, that wasn't my request. My request was that this report be sent out to all the hangar tenants. Can we do that?
I don't have any problem with that.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have everyone's email address? That's a
I can get
question.
it from facilities.
Okay,
Okay,
that's great.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Base, you have anything?
No, nothing. I was going to actually try to help the gentleman out. I think it would be appropriate to send a copy to everybody that has a hangar there or a space that they're renting.
County?
As Shannon stated, this was done at the request of the Board of County Commissioners, and we did send out a request for proposals. We went through our county attorney to target airport appraisal, people who specialize in this. We didn't just send it, you can't just send an airport appraisal request out to a property appraiser, or, they have to know what they're looking for. Out of those two, this Slack, Johnston, and Magenheimer they were the lowest cost, and of course, that's what the county has to go by. They were about $5,000 cheaper than the other request, the other proposal that we got back. Based on that, and based on the criteria that we sent through the county attorney's office, I feel like, I can send everybody the criteria as well if they'd like to see that, but, that's probably a 50 or 60-page document, but I can certainly send that out. That's public record for everyone who would like to see it, if anybody's interested in that.
Yeah, I think a lot of the questions are that people had were not in this report. I don't know what the requirements were as far as what was studied, but whether an aircraft or airport has GPS approaches.
Right,
Milton
that was all.
has an approach, no nighttime approach,
Right.
one GPS approach, and that's it.
That was also included in the
Intersecting
article.
runways, there's a lot of things that we're not seeing in this report that we have questions on. And
There-
in order to consider the price, you really need to consider all those things, so.
This was all, once they were chosen, I did some before work for them and sent them everything that you're talking about. So as far as if they just didn't find they may not have been able to find an exact fit. So they've got to go to the next thing. That may be what they did. I'm not, I can definitely check with them and ask them. I can even ask them to come up here and go over what they said. They would be happy to do that, if that's what you'd like.
That would be great.
Okay. We'll try, our next meeting is January 19th, so I'll try to get them up here for that meeting, or either on Teams, if they can't make it all the way, and we can ask questions of them that way, if that works out better for everybody.
And I think everyone that's a hangar tenant does not mind the price going up with the cost of living or reasonable. But when you get a report that says, let's go up $200 on this hangar, we probably ought to justify it a little better than that.
Okay, I'll reach out to them and see if they can either come and talk, or I'll have them over a Teams meeting to discuss it. That's good with everyone.
So what's the timeline that we're looking to present this to the Board of County Commissioners?
Well, if I'm going to have him come discuss it, then it'll have to be later in January. So, okay. If, since we're going to have him come up here, then we'll extend it to later. We wouldn't have to do it in January. If there's still questions, we want to make sure that everybody's questions get answered. So, we're fine with just holding off until he can come up here in January to discuss it. But in the meantime, I'll get it out to everyone. Any questions that anyone has, I'll be happy to reach out to the appraiser to get answers for you. But if you do have questions, if you'll come through me so that I can vet them through him, that way he's not getting all these, different questions from different people. You can keep it all together.
Thank you.
So Phil, did you get your questions answered?
Well, sir, not entirely. I would like, for the record, the percentage increase and the actual increase for each hangar to be read for the record here today. Also, too, with the timing of this, if we send out the report to everybody, maybe next January, we give everybody a chance to discuss this.
This is just a proposal, and Tina will send this to you.
Right.
I'm not going to sit here and read every one of these out for every single hangar, but.
Well, he had mentioned that there was a
but
percentage
you
increase.
can have a copy of this.
Okay. I would like to ensure that the report is sent out, and then maybe there's a chance to discuss this report. So if we send out the report now to all tenants, then maybe we can discuss that in January at this meeting.
Okay. And this is a proposal. It's just a recommendation, so it's not concrete.
Understandable.
Just make sure that everyone understands that.
Thank you, sir.
With this much of an increase and this much query that's probably going to come, it'd probably be wise to probably recommend that a workshop of some sort be set up based on the conversation that may occur. You may take more than just one meeting based on the input you're going to get. It appears that you have questions, the board has questions, and obviously the residents that are using the facilities are going to have questions. Typically, you see this with the county when they have budget concerns or budget changes of any magnitude. There's usually a workshop or something like that. Maybe Shannon and his team can work out something similar to that here at this facility or wherever it may be.
Have a motion to adjourn? See everyone at the next meeting.